This session wanders a little bit. We'll try to focus on the present moment. Blessings and welcome in the eternal light and love of our one infinite creator. I'm Robert. It's a pleasure speaking with you. The challenge of the present moment is endless. As we meet this particular moment together, I am focused on bringing us into a fuller consideration of how we can work with this moment. I see that all my previous experiences, no matter what they were or how I came to have them, were for the sole purpose of bringing me to the place that I am today. This I see as one of the profound truths of all creation. And what is this learned lesson that is suggested? We can use the term acceptance. 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 We might also call this realization an entrance into a state of non-fear. Very few entities are able to dwell in the present moment, but rather they are chastising themselves or congratulating themselves on that which is past or worrying about that which is to come. It is well to remember that each moment intersects eternity. We ask each to release the fear of living in this illusion, to release the fear of leaving the illusion, and to become content on whatever conditions prevail, accepting any condition as agreeable, even though it may seem to be a serious challenge or difficulty. Acceptance, the energy of the open, empty hand, is a quality that moves from very deep within our nature. It is my feeling that joy or bliss is our native state, the one we experience when we are in an accepting, allowing state, and our energies are freely moving. It is definitely not the case, to my mind, that happiness itself is an objective within this present illusion. It is a treat when it visits, and we enjoy that lack of discomfort and general feeling of content. But the focused and peaceful flow of bliss is something more. It is a natural and always potentially available energetic state. And when we do achieve that free flow of energy through the self, it is most healing and energetically strengthening. It begins perhaps with the full acceptance of oneself. This includes acceptance of limitations and difficulties which can easily be perceived as coming from outside the self, as opposing to being planned by the self before incarnation in order to aid the program of lessons the seeker has chosen. The battle is fought for the heart of the self, and sometimes a seeker may begin to think that he has more than one self within him. So full of contradictions do the wanderer's varieties, or I should say vagaries, of selfhood seem. Thusly, to move from tolerance to celebration of others, the first challenge is to begin to perceive the self within this larger view, which does not judge, but rather uses energy in a positive and creative manner, in self-acceptance, self-forgiveness, and self-empowerment. To keep faith, continue in hope, and do all such good works as open before the eyes. In the context of our family or work environment, it is well to remember how much stronger a group whose members support each other is than a group whose members are not so well knit. This particular instrument was not trained, nor did it study, nor worked it at any discipline in order to contact Ra. We were able, as we have said many times, to contact this group using this instrument because of the purity of this instrument's dedication to the service of the one infinite creator, and also because of the great amount of harmony and acceptance enjoyed each by each within the group. This situation making it possible for the support group to function without significant distortion. A good way of saying just what it is that we are accepting in the present moment is to say we're accepting the unacceptable. Certainly, many times our present moment is most acceptable and pleasant. The challenge comes when this particular present moment seems painful, hurtful, challenging, or just plain wrong. However, the logic is clear. We are creatures of love, made of light. We are sparks of the Creator. There are two ways of saying that we are universal beings. We are all that there is in one package, each of us containing all. So, no matter what is happening to us, it is flowing directly from the heart of our sense and our destiny, no matter how unfortunate it may seem. Those of QO comment, the most strengthening gift that you can cultivate in the regard of this most important and central service is the gift of persistence and unflagging acceptance of any and all circumstances, because it is only an illusion that lies between you and that which is the truth. To extend across the chasm between doubt and faith, some entities need great structures to guide them. Other entities find their chapel in the woods or in the mountain. So many times when there is something we are resisting in life, if we look carefully, we can see that it is an old issue, the return of a theme that has come up before, whether once or many times. The simple truth is that resisting something that is attempting to teach us is futile. We do not have to be of a certain mind as we come into acceptance of this catalyst, but we do need to see that coming into an accepting relationship with the issue itself and determining how we can cooperate with the lesson involved is the only way that will serve to move us forward on our paths. If we run from one version of a problem, it will just crop up in a different and probably more difficult form. The reason it is unwise to overcome is that overcoming is an unbalanced action, creating difficulties in balancing in the time-space continuum. Overcoming thus creates the further environment for holding on to that which apparently has been overcome. All things are acceptable in the proper time for each entity, and in experiencing, in understanding, in accepting, and then sharing with others. The appropriate distortion shall be moving away from distortion of one kind to distortions of another, which may be more consonant with the law of one. It is, shall we say, a shortcut to simply ignore or overcome any desire. It must instead be understood and accepted. This takes patience and experience, which can be analyzed with care, with compassion for self and for other self. Nor can one take a shortcut by editing the self by its own will. We cannot remove ourselves from that which we feel. Rather, we need to come into acceptance of those things we feel. In terms of doing the inner work, the challenge is to find ways to allow that which is not the heart of self to fall away. It is not that one decides to remove self-identification from this or that pattern of living or distortion of mind. The seeker who feels that it knows what is to be dropped in order to be more the heart of self is deluding itself at some level, for there is no way from within the self to see into the patterns of energy that are in essence distortions of the one infinite creator. Consequently, there is no rational way to become more and more undistorted. Working to become less distorted is a distortion itself, and the seeker who attempts to guide itself in the ways of becoming the creator is, instead, most likely developing patterns of thinking that are in and of themselves an additional distortion. So there is the addition of distortion rather than the subtraction of distortion. So instead of immediately trying to become less distorted, it seems more helpful to focus first on forgiving the distorted self and accepting it just as it is. When the person facing this situation can realize the degree of fear that is distorting the challenge at hand, then it is that that entity becomes more and more skillful at looking straight at the fear involved and taking that fear within the heart and forgiving the self for being fearful. This work upon the self over a period of time begins to build up for the self a concept of the self as being flexible, able to learn new ways, unafraid to speak regardless of the consequences. I feel it is important to work at removing fear little by little, not tearing away whole systems of fear so quickly that we are aquiver with it, but moving towards fearlessness one small step at a time. Removing fear allows us the freedom we need to consolidate what we have learned and keep moving onward to new vistas, new learning, new growth. This childlike nature is balanced and focused by the maturing sensibility of a seeker. This is the strength of experience, catalyst which has been processed and placed carefully within the personality as a secure building block, is placed within any builded structure. However, this maturing and adult-like attitude can also be an inhibitor to further change, in that it wishes to maintain that which it has and that which it is. For it is difficult enough to accept oneself as one sees the self, and to be asked to accept that which is perhaps more unknown within the self is an added challenge, which again requires the attitude of the child, looking at all about it and with complete acceptance. In this regard, I want to reiterate something I have said before. I am not writing this book completely from experience, or at least not fully successful experience. Take this subject of coming into a full and joyful acceptance of the present moment and situation. Am I fully successful at this? Of course not. Do not ever be discouraged from doing indigo ray work because you are not, in your own eyes, successful or worthy. Just keep practicing. It isn't the mysteries in life that are profound. It's living it and finding your way through it as an atom in its structural being. The fruits of acceptance include love and forgiveness. So rouse the self from its daze with a shout of joy and stand in a glad acceptance that you shall do all for love. And in that giving, you may perhaps have one outcome or the other, but whether the little life of flesh is ended or is preserved, then you shall be with the Creator. Take these opportunities to polarize, to experience unconditional love, to experience a deep forgiveness of all concerned, and most of all of yourself, for being dazed by the illusion once again. We may be up the lazy river, in the words of Hoagie's song, but we do have a pole, or at least some small say in just how we take on our course by the old mill run. Another fruit of acceptance is a deepened quality of patience. A limitation is wisely accepted as the basis of evolution, of further action. When one cannot walk, one finds oneself an appropriate seat. When one cannot speak, one remains silent. When one cannot understand, one embraces mystery. When one cannot move, one embraces the concept of moving motionless. What use are our gifts if they are not shared with love? As St. Paul said so long ago, without love, we are a clanging gong, a big, empty noise. Being comes first. It is such a subtle play, being and doing, balancing acceptance with the use of the Stirling mechanism in finding ways to cooperate with our destiny. When we use words like acceptance, we move into words that share many of the same textures and qualities like love, praise, and thanksgiving. This process of accepting that which is, whether it be easy or difficult, is a process of, in one sense, becoming able to appreciate each facet of the Creator that is revealed to you and to build upon this appreciation so that it becomes more natural to give praise and thanksgiving for all one experiences. For within the attitude of praise and thanksgiving, one smooths the journey, shall we say. How perspective helps. We work both with acceptance and desire. So intimately, it is impossible to see them, or any of these concerns we have been talking about, as separate paths, for they interweave and play through our experience, and we pick up more ability to play in return with these skills and attitudes towards the present moment and all it holds. When we can find easy acceptance of what is happening, what a wonderful estate to dwell within. When we find ourselves caught with the unacceptable and the thorns of our own desires, we can still meet the moment with praise and thanksgiving. This attitude of gratitude is like acting as if we are in love or as if we have faith. It offers a hotbed for the truth to grow up in. If we can find ways to appreciate the beauties and blessings of the present moment, we are entering into a level of seeking that, to me, makes sense. When people come up to me at parties, they generally are asking things about me and what have I to report. Ecstasy lifting me up as I dance in the living room with my husband after a day of work. Joy flooding me in so many emotions and moments this day. Bliss does not travel to party conversation very well, does it? Many seekers share this basic problem. The concerns that take up our main interest aren't commonly shared. How many people wish to speak of coming fully into the present moment, for instance? in a world that is often unaccepting of us, to find acceptance within ourselves, for ourselves, and each other, and what is a true challenge. However, it is an effort I have found well worth the trouble. With that said, praise be our Creator. I love you, my sisters and brothers. Have a blessed day. Remember, now is all that exists. The past is the past, can do nothing about it, and the future is not yet set. The eternal now is all that exists.